All of the officials at HHS
Welcome
and
to
our whole
Healthcare
teams
Sucks.
expressing our sadness for the loss of this patient in the state of Washington.
A lot of
Any
hooey
single
going
death
on,
for
guys.
us is a real tragedy, and our sympathy to
Lot
the
of hooey.
family and our solidarity with all those who are and will suffer from the novel coronavirus. From day one, this is what we predicted. This is what we expected. The risk to any average American is low from the novel coronavirus. The risk remains low thanks to the unprecedented
They're tapping
actions
it down.
President
It's
Trump
all
has
about the
taken
stock market, my
and the actions
friends.
he's announcing today. That risk remains
You'll
low.
never see a
But
sadder
this can
Mr.
change
T.
rapidly.
Never.
We have always said from the first moment that we have spoken about this that we would see more cases. We are seeing more cases. We will see more cases. But it's important to remember
When you say
that
it
the
like that,
vast
guys,
majority of individuals
it's all
who
BS.
contract the novel coronavirus, they will experience mild to moderate symptoms, and their treatment will be to remain at home, treating their symptoms the way they would a severe cold or the flu.
And how are they going to pay
For
for
some
that?
individuals, a smaller percentage, especially those who may be medically fragile, they will require medical attention, including possibly hospitalization.
Are they going to suspend
Our
all
basic
debts
message
with the banks?
in terms of the containment of this disease and the measures that we have and are taken and are today announcing is we want to lower the amount of travel to and from the most impacted areas. This is a basic containment strategy. That is the philosophy behind the moves that we have taken, the moves we're announcing today, and any moves that we will consider in the future. With that said, let me turn things over to Dr. Tony Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases.
And I put it to you one more time, guys. Are they going to cancel all of our debts, keep our credit rating,
Mr. Secretary. I want to
and
first
hold
again,
the
as
banks
the entire
back?
team feels, to extend our sympathies to the family of the individual who expired as
You
a
know,
result
when you hear
of this
poor people say
particular
they're
virus, of this
sorry,
particular disease.
that's too much
But I also
BS.
want to
I'm sorry
underscore
too.
and emphasize the points
But there's going to
that the
be more
Secretary
casualties,
made
my
about
friends.
what is evolving here. You've heard of the terminology community spread. Well, community spread is when you have infection in the community in which you don't have a direct link to a known index case. That really challenges us with something that we need to do and that we do very well. The state and local health authorities, in collaboration with the CDC, would need to identify, isolate, and contact trace. And that's what's going on right here in the country. With regard to the particular area that's involved now in Washington, the country as a whole, because we get asked that all the time, still remains at low risk. But when we say that, we want to underscore that this is an evolving situation. And in real time, we will keep you appraised of what is going on just the same way as that we are doing it today. So how do you address this new challenge? There's what we do from within and what we do from without. I hearken back to the original decision that was made by the president of making sure that we knew the scenario that was going on in China. We prevented travel from China to the United States. If we had not done that, we would have had many, many more cases right here that we would have to be dealing with. So in that spirit, the approach is going to be, as we address this challenge, which is going to evolve by the day and by the week, to do what was just mentioned, to try and keep our citizens from going to places that are active infection, and to prevent places where there are active infection to necessarily easily get here.
And they've
That's
already made the
getting
mistake
it
by
from
not
without to
quarantining long
within.
enough, guys.
From within, we will very aggressively do the kind of public health measures that would hopefully contain this. But as we say this, we need to prepare for further challenges, and we will have them. You will hear about additional cases that will be coming on. You should not be surprised by that, but to realize that that is something that is anticipated when you get community spread. So when you have cases throughout the world, the way we're seeing now, South Korea, Italy, Iran, and places like that, the United States cannot be completely immune to that. The challenge is how we deal with it.
But
And
they
I can
sure
assure
came
you
out and
all
said
the
we were
resources
immune
that
to
are
it for how
necessary
long,
are gonna be
guys?
put into
How much
dealing
BS
with what
were
we
you
see
fed?
evolving right now. Again, we'd be happy to answer any questions later, but Bob, you want to say a few words?
I also want to add my prayers and sympathies
interesting.
for those that are sick.
Well,
and
here we go.
our citizen
Let's apologize one
unfortunately
more
died last
time
night.
for us being
Currently,
stupid
as said,
and
there's 22
incompetent.
cases in the United States, and these initial cases were really linked to travel to China and their contacts. Recently, as was stated, we've confirmed new cases with no link to travel history or contacts.
It's because it's
And
mutating,
health
my
departments
friends.
under the
Mutating. You will not hear that out of his
and local health
out of his
departments
mouth.
supported by CDC are aggressively evaluating these cases in California, Oregon, and Washington.
Oh, now Oregon.
As I said,
He
we
added
should
it.
anticipate
Oh
to
my
see
gosh.
additional cases and clusters in the days ahead, and we will continue to aggressively evaluate them by the state and local and territorial tribal health departments in conjunction with CDC by embracing early case recognition, isolation, contact tracing, and begin to do that to limit the further spread. I want to also add my emphasis to what was said, that as we stand here today, the risk of the American public remains low. As was said, we should anticipate more cases, but again, the current risk to the American public remains low.
That's the quickest I've ever heard him. This is going to be good, guys.
You said the other day in the cabinet room with African American leaders, you've got to get away from politics. You were down in Charleston last night using the word hoax when talking about Democrats. Somebody now is dead from this. Do you regret that kind of talk?
No. Hoax referring to the action that they take to try and pin this on somebody because we've done such a good job. The hoax is on them. I'm not talking about what's happening here. I'm talking what they're doing. That's the hoax. That's just a continuation of the hoax, whether it's the impeachment hoax or the Russia hoax. This is what I'm talking about. Certainly not referring to this. How could anybody refer to this? This is very serious stuff. But the way they refer to it, because these people have done such an incredible job, and I don't like it when they are criticizing these people, and that's the hoax. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm just going to ask you directly about this with regard to the flow of information. From the very beginning, you received a lot of criticism regarding that, in particular about Dr. Anthony Fauci. He is world-renowned in contagious diseases, and there were reports out there that he was being muzzled. Can you tell us that this widely respected expert, Dr. Fauci, will have every opportunity to tell us the truth?
Well, that's a very dishonest question because he has had that ability to do virtually whatever he's wanted to do, and in fact, he was never muzzled.
Okay.
And there's no gag order.
Very dishonest question, but that's okay.
It's not dishonest. I want to clarify, Mr. President. I want to clarify.
So let me clarify it. I have never been muzzled, ever, and I've been doing this since the administration of Ronald Reagan. I'm not being muzzled by this administration.
And he
What
wouldn't
happened,
say so
which was
anyway, guys, if he was.
is that we were set up to go on some shows, and when the vice president took over, we said, let's regroup and figure out how we're going to be communicating. So I had to just stand down on a couple of shows and resubmit for clearance. And when I resubmitted for clearance, I got cleared. So I have not been muzzled at all. That was a real misrepresentation of what happened.
Are you considering other travel restrictions? And
Yes.
What about closing the southern border?
We are looking also southern border. In fact, some of the folks are here right now. Ken is here someplace. And yes, we are thinking about southern border. We have received a lot of power on the southern border over the last couple of years from the courts, but we are looking at that very strongly.
Mr. President, how should Americans prepare for this virus? Should they go on with their daily lives, change their routine? What should they do?
Well, I hope they don't change their routine, but maybe Anthony, I'll let you answer that, or Bob, you want to answer it?
Sure, Mr. President, thank you. I think it's really important that, as I said, the risk at this time is low. The American public needs to go on with their normal lives, okay? We're continuing to
Be good little puppets. Go out there and keep working. Keep your chins up. Pay your taxes.
In relation communicating that to the American public. But at this stage, again, the risk is low. We need to go on with our normal lives.
Yeah, you notice these are quick answers. These are programmed.
Increasing of the coronavirus in South Korea, and to warn you about the U.S. troops in South Korea, and how did you consider that traffic in the U.S.?
Well, we care very much for the troops. We're in constant touch with the troops. We've been speaking to the general, as you probably know, 32,000 troops in South Korea. And that's all working out fine. And we're in touch. We were in touch with the authorities in South Korea too.
What responsibility do you feel, as you're communicating about this, for the public to follow your directions and to take the prudent steps? And then when you did use the word hoax, couldn't that cause some people to not take the precautionary steps because they're linking what you're saying when you use the word hoax in the context of coronavirus?
Okay, so again, the hoax was used with respect to Democrats and what they were saying. It was a hoax, what they were saying, and that was very clear if you'd read the words, and I think you know that too.
And I think he's being honest on this, guys. I do.
I think the biggest decision we made was going very early, and that was a decision made against a lot of people that thought we shouldn't do that. That's why we're at 22 instead of a much higher number. It would have been a much higher number. It was a big decision. It was a hard decision because it had never been done before anyway. I mean, not even early or late. It had never been made, a decision like that. So that was big. And my next thing is really getting the best people. We're the best people in the world. They're standing behind me. These people are so talented. I've seen them in action now for a number of weeks, actually, but for, in particular, for the last 4 or 5 days. And I want to thank Mike
Trump
Pence
is holding
and
back.
for the
He
job
knows
they're doing. We have a great team.
SHIT is going to hit the fan. I'm calling it right now, guys. The market's going down. He's not happy. He knows, guys. He knows. Change is coming and it's not good.
To make sure that you don't come in contact with the virus either through your travel or with who you meet.
Well, I think so. I mean, we lead a life. I get around. I was in South Carolina last night. We had a tremendous rally. I've been around. I think we're going to be in very good shape. You know, you're talking about 22 people right now in this whole.
He's going to ask. They're going to ask him about the rallies. You watch, guys.
A couple of questions for Dr. Fauci about, in particular, about the virus. Dr. Fauci, what do you now understand about the morbidity? The Secretary refers to medically fragile people. Are you confident that if you're a relatively healthy young person, that this will not be fatal for you?
Okay, so the number in our country currently is low, but when you look at the pattern, it seems to be following the experiences that others have had. It's never 100%. If you look at
it's Agenda 21%.
Particularly from China, about 75 to 80% of them would do really quite well. They would just sort of like a bad flu or a cold. You get anywhere from 15 to 20 somewhat percent who are going to go on to require advanced medical care, hospitalization, possibly intensive care. For the most part, the people who get in trouble and ultimately, tragically, would die from this are people who are elderly and or have underlying conditions.
And how many millions in America have those conditions, guys? Millions.
Because of the difficulty in breathing back and forth. However, every once in a while, you're going to see a one-off. You're going to see a 25-year-old person who looks otherwise well that's going to get seriously ill. But the vast majority of the people who get into trouble do have these underlying conditions. And that's why it confuses people, because they say, well, you just said that, and then there's a report of a 40-year-old physician from China who died. That's going to happen. That happens with influenza. Most of the time, influenza kills people who are advanced age and underlying conditions. But you hear in the media every once in a while, a college student would get infected and ultimately die. But the majority is in that risk group.
And one more technical question.
Yes.
Have you determined whether there are any variants of this virus so that a person who may have gotten it and then gotten over it could get it again?
No, there's no indication that that's going on at all.
That's not true. There's proof, guys. He's tamping it down.
Once you've gotten infected and recovered, you're not going to get infected.
There is people out there. I've covered it. Another thing, think about this. What is 20% of America?
Between the Taliban and the U.S. Does this mean the war in Afghanistan is over? Is the Taliban in charge? And secondly,
And then you got this going on, guys.
why are you renominating him?
He's a terrific man. He's been fantastic at everything he's done. He's highly respected. He wanted to wait till after the IG report came in, as you saw. Originally, I don't think he was officially or formally nominated. His name was thrown out, but he wanted to wait till after the IG report. The IG report has now come, and we've learned a lot of very bad things from the IG report, as you know very well. And I think he'll go through a process, and it'll go fairly quickly. He's a very respected man. Somebody that I've gotten to like, somebody who really has, he's someone who's really distinguished himself, and I think over the last year and a half, 2 years in particular. So we're very happy with that. As far as the Taliban is concerned, everybody wanted this to happen. The Taliban wanted it to happen. President Ghani was very much involved in this.
What are the conditions of this, guys? There is some weird crap going on right now. And they're not going to talk about Syria, I guarantee you. It's not going to come up.
We'll see how that all works out. We hope it's going to work out very well. I think they have big incentives to do it, but they have to take care of the terrorists and kill the terrorists. We'll be working in a different kind of a fashion toward that end. But the job we've done has been a fantastic one in terms of terrorists and terrorism, and it's time for our people to start coming home.
Mr. President, you mentioned the drop of spread in China coronavirus cases. Is the U.S. government considering evaluating similar measures in the U.S. in case the situation gets
Some
worse?
measures, we've been in very close contact with China, including myself with President Xi. He very much wanted this to happen. He wanted this to get out and finished and be done. He's been working very, very hard, I can tell you that. And they're making a lot of progress in China. You probably saw Starbucks are now opened again. You probably saw that, as I mentioned, Tim just came out and he said Apple is back to normal in terms of production in their facilities in China. They've made a lot of progress.
Thank you. Couple of questions, one of them technical. The woman who passed away, did she travel to South Korea, or is she a case of community spread?
Oops. Yeah, the case, again, this is why we're talking about the community cases with no link to travel. So the investigation at this time shows no evidence of link to travel or a known contact.
Okay, and also you said that Americans as a whole are at a low risk. Are Americans on the west coast of the United States at a low risk? And are you considering restricting travel within the United States?
So I just want to emphasize again that the Americans, independent of where they live in this nation, are at low risk, all right? And we're going to continue to evaluate aggressively these on-link cases as we see them, and as we learn, we'll obviously communicate that.
Boy, that was tamping it down.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Why are you considering closing the border with Mexico, since there are so many more cases here than there? And another question, are you working with the governments from Brazil and Mexico to try to coordinate?
Because they're coming across the border. We all know. I covered it, guys.
Well, we have a great relationship, as you know, with Mexico. We have 27,000 soldiers. They're soldiers on our border doing a fantastic job. Our numbers are way down, people coming into our country illegally. We have ports of entry that we are keeping open, and we're not talking about it. We're thinking about all borders. We have to think about that border, but right now that is not.
Yep, we need to close Canada too, guys, unfortunately. It's coming in from up there too.
Right now. We hope we won't have to do that. Yes, please go ahead.
Mr. President, if I could just follow on Afghanistan.
No, you weren't. Please.
Thank you very much, President. I'm just wondering what the communication with China look like right now, and does the experience and lessons coming from China will help the U.S. dealing with the current situation?
Well, I think our relationship with China is very good. We just did a big trade deal. We're starting on another trade deal with China, a very big one, and we've been working very closely. They've been talking to our people. We've been talking to their people, having to do with the virus. And no, our relationship with China is very good. Maybe it's closer because of what's happened here. Because it was, you know, in a certain way, this can bring the world closer. If you want to know, it can really do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the 99%, bros. 99%. 99%.
National Security Advisor John Bolton has said that this is an Obama-style deal and sends the wrong message to ISIS and Al-Qaeda.
This is BS, guys.
Taliban give up
Right
here?
now.
You know, first of all,
And will you be hosting the Taliban in Washington and Camp
The
David?
questions are getting stupid. So we're done.
This deal after 19 years.
If you want to watch
He
this,
didn't do it. He was very
let me
much in
stop
favor of
this
going
thing.
in. We should have never gone in.
If you want to watch the whole thing, guys, feel free to go check it out. Go through it. The questions are getting stupid. Okay, number one coverage. The medical little toady said 20% of the United States, guys. That's millions of people. Do they not hear the stupidity that they're saying? They're giving us the answers. 20%. Even if it's 10%, it's too many. Now, as far as the age group, if it's the older range, do you know how many millions of people are in that age group, guys? And I'm going to emphasize that you one more time in case you haven't been keeping up and that you're new to tuning in to Healthcare Sucks, my friends. When we are forced to self-quarantine, they are going to have to postpone all debts, our rent, our payments of houses, cars, credit cards, our payments on our houses. This is going to be, excuse me, your state. These guys right there, those two guys, their responsibility, Pence and Trump, their responsibility, and your governor and your senators, to make sure you do not lose your credit rating, you do not lose your home, you do not lose your car. If you rent, you do not lose your place to live. We cannot have any more homeless. We cannot suffer because things were not done correctly. And part being is they're still not quarantining more than 14 days. You heard it, guys. And they're tamping it down, honestly. And I put to you one last thing before I sign off today. Go back and watch my videos on the factory cities and then get back to me and tell me that they're not mass producing everything and anything from weapons to masks to medications. Those factories can be retooled, which means they can make anything and everything out of there. They have the resources out there. Just because they're not showing any sick people out there, they're also not showing any sick people in their military in China. I put to you, this is part of the plan. Think about it. Let's weaken everybody with an illness. Let's cut their supplies off. Let's take back the supplies we've already given them. And then what comes? Invasion. Possibly. It's just a possibility, guys. But when a nation is weakened or a world is weakened, that's when we've had WW scenarios, guys. And don't kid yourself. This President Xi is an evil dictator SOB. He is. If you think he wouldn't step up and try to rule the world in a heartbeat with the Emperor's blessings, and we're trying to figure out exactly who Xi is. He's connected more than meets the eye, guys. You don't get to be president for life just because they like him. And with that, guys, I do want you to think about everything. I love you. Please go out and get supplies. Please remember, these people are scripted. They're tamping it down. Also remember, you've never seen Trump look like this, guys. It's because I'm going to put forth something. First of all, I have nothing against the president. Or I try to be as neutral as I can with an opinion. Okay? I just want what's right for America and the people. Bottom line, that's all I've ever wanted. And we've unfortunately never got it. Not in my lifetime. With that being said, I think we all need to keep our eyes open, our ears, and we need to protect ourselves, our families, and our friends. Because these people aren't going to do it. In Oregon, they lied to us for weeks. California, they lied to you for weeks. California, they brought people back. In the United States, if you go, I will cover a video tonight or tomorrow where a gentleman works over in China, actually even got his wife out, came through all the screenings, got away with it, and was just told to self-quarantine at a hotel. He could have skipped out any minute. They are not watching the people coming and going. And the thing on the border, real quick, I've already had contact. There are people going into Mexico, and by the way, it is in Mexico, and they're coming across the border, guys. And they're not documented. And they're not going to want to be documented, most of them, until they're so ill that they're afraid to lose their life. Then they'll go to the hospital. But it's not... I mean, at some point, guys, that's where the airfare thing should have been done to begin with. The travel thing should have been done ASAP. And the reason all these things are not done is because of the stock market. That's why Mr. T is upset. I'm going to tell you something else about... I personally, watching this man in this situation and everything else, I thought Trump was unbeatable. But I'm going to tell you, if you think the D-A-R-K people, staters, you know what I'm saying, are not up to their necks in this in somehow or some way, you're wrong. There was no way to unseat this guy in front of you. He was going to win this prior to this. And I honestly think Bernie has a shot now. There's a crack in the egg. It's just another thought, guys. You don't have to agree with me, but I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. Trump is fracturing, guys, because he knows what I'm telling you is true. The stock market's crashing. It's not even begun. And people who watch the stock market for years have predicted this, and they were right. They were right when the housing crash situation. It's caused by greed. So what we need to do is watch, always. As always, I use the Fair Use Act. And another thing, everything you see in here is always fiction. The world is fiction. These guys on the screen is fiction. What is not fiction is you and I, your family, your friends, and we being united again as the 99%. We can thank them for it. With that, remember who the 1% are. They're not going to need money. We will need money. Not only are debts going to have to be canceled, but they're going to have to issue food stamp card and cash on it so that we can, when we're self-quarantined, order things in. If, and this is a big if Amazon and FedEx, the mail, and the other companies that deliver stuff are still delivering, guys. Because at some point, if it gets nuts, that ain't going to happen. So let's go back to what you can do for yourself. Today, or this weekend, without breaking yourself, go out and get some supplies. Water, food, necessities, medications. I urge you to call your doctors and ask for 3 months worth of meds. Then the trouble is, because we gave, and this is healthcare sucks telling you this, because we gave away our rights to the insurance companies, they're probably not going to pay for 3 months of your insurance. And the average person can't pay thousands of dollars for their meds for 3 months. There's no way. And we're talking about the disabled people keep coming up. Why, you ask? Again, are so many going to be at risk and so many going to pass away? Possibly. Because of the reasons I've been telling you about. We're expandable, guys. You got to remember. Go back and watch Event 201, Mr. and Mrs. Gates. Look up Agenda 21. Look up One World Order. If you just watch those three, you research those three subjects, get back to me. Let me know what your opinions are. With that, this has been a 30-minute film, but I think we touched on a lot of things, and I think everything I've told you is the truth. Please contact your governor, your state representatives, your federal representatives, which is House and Congress, and even the two people on the screen, and ask them, when I am self-quarantined, are you going to postpone all deaths and keep our credit rating? Are you going to give me a card to order food and supplies? These are questions you will not hear these people say or talk about, or your local news stations. So I implore you, while there's time, let's start a movement and get covered, guys. Because most of us live check to check. We're not going to have the money like the rich people. We've always known this is the way it was going to go down. And with that, I love you. Please take care, my friends. And I'll be back. I'll be back. Because healthcare sucks. And with that, healthcare sucks. Oh well. Not such a good Arnold, right? Haha. Love y'all. And healthcare does suck. Healthcare sucks out. Have a great day, my friends. Stay safe.